Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of SUGTalks. I'm Craig Dale, your host, and together with our special guest, we'll take a deep dive into the topics, challenges, and opportunities facing SAP users today. Please make sure you hit that subscribe button so you never miss another episode. I'm delighted today to be joined by David Robinson, President, Cloud ERP, Rise with SAP at SAP. So, welcome, David.
Thank you very much, Craig. Thank you for the invitation and look forward to spending time with you and your listeners.
Fantastic. And this is the first of two episodes where we're going to be discussing the future
Mhm.
of Rise with SAP. And just before we get into that, David, I just thought I'd start things off with a quick question for you. What's your biggest claim to fame?
My biggest claim to fame. Um, wow. In terms of things, I'll share with you some things that people generally don't know about me. Certainly not in the public space, in the business space. Is I play the oboe.
Oh, wow.
So, and I had the pleasure of learning under one of the most famous oboists in Washington D.C. Many years ago. But I do not get a chance to certainly play as much now as I would love to. But certainly, it's always something that I have a real passion for.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you for that. So when
So
we get you over to speak, we can also have you entertain as well.
we'll do a little bit of a concert, indeed. We look forward to that. So.
Oh, wonderful. Well, it just blows me right out of the water, to be honest, because when Chris landed that on my lap, I was thinking, God, do I really have a claim for fame? But what I'm going to say is actually, it's this podcast, I think. You know, we're nearing 10,000 downloads, and last week we were number 8 in the 60 best European technology podcasts on FeedSpot.
Wow.
So there we go. That's me.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's quite an accomplishment, and it's a great audience size.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you. Okay, well, moving swiftly on. Uh, in February, we were joined on the podcast by Uwe Grigolai to
Mhm.
discuss the RISE SAP Migration and Modernization program. And today, we wanted to take an in-depth look at the future of RISE and how SAP's plans to further support customers going forward into the future. So, to start things off, David, could you give us a quick update on how the Rise with SAP Migration and Modernization program has been received so far?
Certainly. Certainly, and thank you. And it's also very daunting to have to follow Uwe Grigolite in terms of the podcast series, but I will do my very best. Um, the Rise with SAP Migration and Modernization program was certainly something that was a result of a lot of feedback we received from the customer base over the course of the last 3 or so years. We had a lot of input from customers, many of which had already moved down the path towards Cloud ERP, leveraging the Rise with SAP go-to-market offering. And part of that was a lot of good learnings and certainly what worked well, and a lot of the success that customers had been able to already realize and amplify. But I think more importantly, it was a lot of good feedback in terms of where are areas that they would like to see more investment and more engagement from SAP. So a lot of what was captured was then incorporated into that SAP Migration and Modernization program that was announced earlier this year. I think the single most area of interest and certainly of measurable impact is what we're referring to as the transformation incentive. And a lot of ways in which SAP has learned that helping our customers not just offset some of the costs associated with the transition from an on-premise environment into one in which is delivered as a cloud service, and what that means for the value proposition and the technology, it also has a positive impact on the commercials and on the economics of incorporating cloud into the day-to-day IT strategy. But that doesn't happen overnight. And in a lot of cases, it could take multiple steps to help refactor not just the technical, but the economic changes of adopting Cloud ERP. That transformation incentive has helped us tremendously, help customers identify ways they want to direct the incentive credits, whether it's in paying down maintenance and helping offset the cost of maintenance while they're scaling into a subscription cloud use, or to offset service costs associated with the migration effort itself, whether it's a data migration or technical migration, and certainly to be able to apply those credits towards more cloud subscription. If there are other parts of their estate that they also want to incorporate into a cloud model, it allows them to use that transformation incentive credits to be able to do that in a way that both cost and risk manages their transition to Cloud ERP. So we saw a tremendous amount of success in Q1, and certainly a lot of success so far this quarter, and we anticipate continuing that into the second half of 2024.
Oh, great! So very positive steps, very well received, and
Mm-hmm.
that's good to hear. And just taking I suppose, a further step back, if I may, could you give us an overview of how Rise with SAP has developed over the past few years?
Certainly. So when Rise was officially announced in January of 2021, there was a lot of fanfare. There was a lot of amplification, but there wasn't really quite the real world experience with customers in terms of what was the objective of Rise with SAP. And a lot of the focus around engagement and communication was very product oriented. We're trying to get our customers into S/4HANA Cloud, and what we're doing with Rise is delivering that. What we learned over the last 3 years is that it's not only the implementation or the modernization of an ERP environment and getting away from, let's say, an ECC or S4 environment that were traditionally developed to run on-premise, but in most cases were run in a cloud infrastructure. It was more about how do we refactor a day-to-day IT operating model. One that has frankly served customers well for many, many years, but is based on the constraints and the realities and the cost economics of on-premise software. And what does that mean when you transition to a cloud ERP environment? And the resulting positive shift in the day-to-day IT operating model allows our partners in the IT space, and certainly our customers, be able to better manage innovation, be able to spend more time on extensibility and on higher value outcomes, and spend a lot less time on making things work, and a lot more focus on those types of day-to-day activities that the businesses really are striving for. So I could go on and on about kind of a lot of the change, but a lot of it was based on a better understanding of what customers really were getting out of a Rise with SAP engagement. And it was well beyond just modernizing that ERP. And we've incorporated those learnings into bringing together a portfolio of solutions, whether it's S/4HANA Cloud, whether it is Signavio and LeanIX, whether it's the business technology platform, how all of those key components of a successful foundation to an enterprise are now delivered as a cloud service, and what the benefits are to an organization going forward that's adopted that as the foundation. And so that's a lot of the enhancement is making that easier for our customers to deploy, making it easier for customers to understand the current environment and what are the steps and stages of transitioning from a current state to a future state. And I'd say finally, and most importantly, frankly, is the partner ecosystem's understanding of what is the ability to execute with Rise with SAP, what it means for their resources, what it means for their engagement and their strategy, and allowing our GSSP, our partners, to work very, very well with SAP and our mutual customers on delivering on the promise of a cloud ERP foundation. And that's been a real big success that it wasn't easy at the start. We had a lot of confusion in the market. There was a lot of areas where SAP felt there was a tremendous value, and we didn't get that response from the customers. And there were areas, frankly, that we did not understand how powerful and valuable this engagement is, and we've been able to really formalize that and amplify it, such as the transformation incentive. So a lot of progress in the last 3 years.
Thank you. And yes, I've spoken to customers who, and some of them that were really early adopters of Rise, and they've talked about, okay, there were quite a few challenges early on, but we've learned together. We've gone on this kind of journey together, if you like, and
Hmm.
things have changed and improved as we've gone forward. So that's always key, I think, that that collaborative element, that we're in this together. SAP
Hmm.
and the customers, let's ensure we do move forward and make it work. And
Hmm.
I suppose Rise for me, when I look, it's grown and grown and grown, as you've said, over the years. And perhaps it may be a bit simplistic, but there are many different flavors to Rise. And so would you be able to break it down for listeners
Hmm.
at all? For example, what's SAP's Rise for Data Centers offering?
Hmm. Certainly, and that's actually a good point in which to double click on kind of what we have been learning and how Rise has been expanding and areas of investment and prioritization in the last 3 years. A lot of it is the results of customers' actual deployment and use through this Rise with SAP methodology. One of the results that you just touched on is an understanding that this is really, really hard. One of the things that I want to make sure that when I speak with customers, they understand is this isn't a quick one size fits all outcome. Customers have invested a lot of time, resources, a lot of money in ensuring that their use of ERP is going to be able to a return on that investment for the business, and certainly keep pace with the rate of innovation, and ensure that a lot of that investment is seen as really well serving their businesses. Um, at the same time, innovation has changed drastically. The rate of innovation, the pace of change, and there is more and more capabilities out there in the market through cloud service delivery, cloud architecture. So, what does that mean? It means that SAP has a unique opportunity, but also a unique responsibility to provide a lot of choice and optionality to our longstanding customers that have come to rely on SAP's kind of mission critical focus on ensuring that the core is bulletproof, ensuring that the capabilities are going to be made available, and that there is a lot of thought and a lot of integrity put into what is delivered. And that supports end to end business processes, and that every little detail has been thought through as a part of the architecture. At the same time, we also have a responsibility to bring the latest innovations into something that was not that variable in the past. When we developed on-premise software, it was developed for a small set of operating systems or hardware providers, and we went through a pretty detailed certification program, qualification program, to provide some degree of assurance that as customers would implement their ERP environments, they would perform as expected on a really variable set of operating system databases and hardware. We have to continue to provide that kind of choice and optionality, even though we have moved into an enterprise cloud world. And with S4HANA Cloud, one of the biggest feedbacks is to continue to protect that choice and optionality while continuing to deliver on the value proposition that cloud uniquely presents. That's really hard to balance those two seemingly at odds objectives. So one of the areas that's really kind of, I think, differentiating and very, very important to understand is the different infrastructure choices that SAP has designed around are really designed to meet customers that have unique requirements. Customer data center option brings the very, very best of cloud attributes and cloud qualities, but to an enterprise, to a customer that still wants that to exist within a data center, within their data center, or within their hardware environments. And that seems very contradictory to think about it. Why would you want cloud capabilities to run on prem? But in essence, there are requirements out there around data sovereignty and process sovereignty and around regulatory constraints. And frankly, in certain industries, there's still a belief that they want to maintain control of data and ensure that sits within their data centers, but they still want to be able to access some of the new innovations available only through cloud service architecture. So when we look at customer data center option, that's a way for us to strike that balance, providing controls over where the environments exist, while also providing access to cloud service architecture and innovations that are traditionally only available in shared infrastructures. So that's a little bit of something that we've seen has tremendous opportunity in certain markets that do have that data residency requirement, but also in certain industries that have a preference for still maintaining some degree of control, at least for now, over their systems and data.
Mm-hmm. Oh, thank you.
We know our community, but we don't know yours yet. Why not share the benefits of your UK&I SUG membership with those who don't know about us? The UK&I SUG referral scheme rewards you for helping to grow and develop our community. You can check out the link in the description to find out more about how you can get involved. Terms and conditions apply. We hope you enjoy the rest of the podcast.
To me, that sounds quite expensive and rather large. Do I assume this is for probably the larger enterprises that would do that? So I'm guessing not many mid-market companies would have their own data center anyway, but I may be wrong.
You're correct. Most mid-market customers probably either have started to de-invest or have fully divested their data center operations. What's interesting about cloud economics is it does drive towards an economy of scale strategy. And that's why there's such a concentration in this kind of winner-takes-all kind of market dynamic where you have a few kind of cloud providers, hyperscalers, that provide compute, network, and store service. In a lot of ways, it's incredibly accessible. It continues to be very cost efficient to do that. And what we found is that it's almost not competitive any longer for a lot of customers to maintain their own data centers. That's not the case with every customer. It's certainly not the case in every country around the world. There are some countries, some jurisdictions that still require data residency regulations to be maintained and followed. And to a degree, that can be a limiting factor to how much a customer wants to put data systems, application systems up into those cloud infrastructures. We see, and this is a huge topic probably for a future podcast, Greg, but there is a tremendous interest and a lot of investment now in data sovereignty and sovereign cloud. Sovereign cloud is a very, very evolving topic. It's one that starts certainly with data, but it's data, it's hardware, it's personnel that support the infrastructure. It's around residency, it's around privacy. There's a tremendous world now kind of evolving around kind of cloud sovereignty. And SAP is certainly at the forefront of that with our own kind of sovereign cloud capabilities and offerings in certain parts of the world. And what we've learned, and this is not new, data sovereignty is not new. What's new is that the speed at which systems and data have moved into cloud infrastructures, combined with an ever-changing regulatory environment around data privacy and data controls, has meant that enterprises like SAP have to really understand this. And you don't build for the moment. You have to build to be able to adapt and change over time as the rules change. And as customers adapt their own business and their own IT environments to those ever-changing regulations, it's something that is, it's a very complex, but at the same time, very necessary part of truly running enterprise cloud is realizing that. So data sovereignty and sovereign cloud is something that we spend a lot of time on. And to a degree, customer data center option, it's kind of an early variant of sovereign cloud. But we know that there's going to be a lot more to come on that topic.
Thank you. And you mentioned earlier, I think, the SAP from an on-premise environment, I suppose, and looking to the future, customers and how SAP served those customers well for many years, you mentioned earlier. And of course, those customers have been with SAP for many, many years and invested in SAP over that time. So when we're looking at the transition to rise with SAP, or perhaps we should talk more about Cloud ERP rather than simply RISE. But we mentioned with the RISE Modernization and Migration program, how is SAP seeking to support on-premise customers as part of that future program to really help them understand the best route to the future for them and how they can maximize SAP technology, if you like, but solutions going into the distant future.
Certainly. And this is really fundamental to why SAP continues to invest so much in Cloud ERP and to the broader kind of cloud enterprise offerings across the entire line of business portfolio. On-premise software is something that it served the market well, it served SAP well, it served our customers very, very well for a long time. But it had a lot of constraints and limitations. And the constraints and limitations drove cost and slowed down the rate in which innovation could be introduced into the applications. And there were a lot of limitations that still exist when it comes to on-premise architected applications, regardless of where they run. Where they run is, it's a compute network and store conversation, but the applications themselves fundamentally are designed with certain constraints of the past. What we're finding here with Cloud ERP is it's not just where it's run, it's how it's architected. And it's how we bring in all of the different services and new capabilities and how interoperability and how APIs are designed for consumption, how we incorporate changes to applications in a way that's part of the delivery model, not as a part of a large project that has to be managed and lifecycle controlled. So what we're finding here with Rise with SAP is that we're bringing together three key things. This is really what I talk about when I sit with customers, is that we have products, Cloud ERP products like S/4HANA Cloud, such as Signavio and LeanIX in our business transformation suite and business technology platform as a part of that integration and extensibility portfolio. And we take those solutions that we designed for cloud delivery, and we marry them up. We unify them with best practices, tools, and methodologies that help customers transition from an on-premise estate, inclusive of an on-premise IT operating model, to one in which it's a cloud-delivered estate and the end-to-end estate that supports a refactoring of an IT operating model. And when we bring that together with the third piece of success, which is around engagement, cloud architects, enterprise architects around technology and business process, ensuring that every single decision that's made going forward continues to maintain the integrity of the cloud architecture, and it also helps continue to maximize the value proposition. When we unify products with tools and methodologies and with cloud engagement, those three things, we deliver that Rise with SAP engagement, that Rise with SAP outcome. And the outcome is basically a refactoring of both the modernization of the ERP, but a modernization and refactoring of the IT operating model on which the ERP is designed. And that is probably the vision that most customers are then saying, okay, I get it. I get the vision. Help me understand the tools, best practices, and methodologies. I need to have specific tools that help me understand what's my current state. How many non-standard functions exist within my current on-premise ERP environment? Are they still in use? How do they map to the to-be S/4HANA Cloud environment? Is that now part of a future standard function? And if it is, I no longer need to modify the core to get access to the function. And if there are certain requirements that are not available in the to-be core, how do I address that? How do I make sure that I still am able to serve my business while protecting the integrity of a clean core and make sure that that continues to be part of my IT operating environment? All of that is brought together when we engage with customer on Rise. And I would say back to the tools, methodologies, and the best practices, it's really about helping every customer at their own pace know how to transition from that current environment and transition to a future ERP target environment that then delivers on kind of the foundation of a new cloud delivered estate. And that's where we're investing a lot, in those tools and methodologies, the adoption framework, the operating framework. Something that's getting a lot of interest right now is the Clean Core Analyzer, Clean Core Dashboard, that's now a part of that Rise with SAP, that Cloud ERP environment, to help customers view and measure how much standard versus non-standard capability or objects are within that ERP environment, because all of that is starting to really have an impact on the efficiency of IT operations and the rate in which innovation can be activated within a cloud estate. So we have to keep investing in those types of tools.
David, thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your insights. And thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and found it valuable. Please make sure you do subscribe so you don't miss our future episodes. And in particular, don't forget to tune in to our next episode, where we will have the second of these 2 episodes talking about the future of Rise with SAP. And until the next time, stay safe, stay well, and be happy.